Welcome to If This Then What, where we connect the dots and explore the big what if shaping the world. I'm Joshua Giles, that's Sydney Davis, and we're your hosts for today's podcast. YouTube show, what do we want to call this? What is it? Is it a podcast? Are we? All I know is that we're the media now. I don't.
We're the conversation holders.
We're the conversation holders. We're the ones that aren't afraid to make ourselves look dumb.
We're in the arena.
We're in the arena. Oh my gosh, I love that. Man, I love that quote so much. I don't. It's kind of cool. It's sappy. I'll share it so people can make fun of me.
Dude, it's our podcast. We can talk about what we want to, and I want to hear it. So
it's sappy. So I went out and I bought a obnoxiously expensive leather-bound journal right before my son was born, and I want to write a letter to him every year on his birthday, and and then give it to him at some point, probably whenever he has a kid. Like that's the idea that I have in my head. And the very first page is the Man in the Arena quote. And that is how I open the book, because I believe in that so much. And I kind of talked about some of the stuff anyhow, Man in the Arena is a very important quote to me. I wish I could just quote it. I wish I was one of those people that just like had things memorized and just pull it out of their back pocket. But I'm not cool enough to be that guy. But here we are. So we're in the arena.
I love that, by the way.
We're a YouTube show / conversationalist. We're the people out there just talking. Talking about making a fool of themselves. Last week, whenever I added the Moore's Law, when I was kind of just like spitballing, and I knew how important Moore's Law was, but I vastly underestimated how important it was. So on the show last week, I said, and I did mention go research and look into it because it was something like XYZ. And I said on the show that Moore's Law was basically that compute doubles every 7 years. What Moore's Law actually is, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of read. Moore's Law states that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years. Jeez. So I was saying compute doubles every 7 years. And I said 7 years, I think, because that sounded crazy enough to be realistic.
Yeah.
The fact that transistors double on a microchip every single year it's very every 2 years. Yeah. It's very difficult to comprehend that.
You were already having a hard time with 7 years.
Yeah. With the 7 year, I was like, man, you guys better keep up. But with every 2 years, it is because every double is in of itself doubling. I know that sounds so dumb, but every jump,
it's wild.
2 years is just, it's so wild. So it says the law has held true for several decades, driving technological advances. Increase in transistor density leads to faster processing speeds, smaller devices, and lower costs. As technology approaches physical limits, Moore's laws may slow down or cease to apply. So that's the theory, and that's the theory that has been around for a while, is that Moore's law is going to just stop at some point, because it is so much historical like proof behind it that like this is just a thing. But every time somebody thinks it's going to slow down, you get Jensen up on it. Sydney, do you follow CES?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so just so everybody knows,
tell us about
products that was at CES, which is it's the largest electronics consumer electronics show, and it's I'm wondering if what CES stands for. But basically, it's like the who's who in technology and what they're trying to launch.
And JD's been talking about this a lot.
Yeah, basically, you just tell everybody what you've been up to for the year.
Yeah, JD's been thinking about this because of the stock market. He has a big play on Meta and couple of other things on that he's investing in, that the CES information that they're going to announce. He's really excited to hear about it, whatever it is.
Yeah. So last year, the big thing was this. There was a company called Rabbit.ai, and I haven't heard about them for since they launched at CES. Basically, they sold out. It was like a little thing it was like a box that you could put on to like your lapel, and it had a camera on it, and it just had like one or two buttons, and like, or maybe I'm mixing this up with something else, but it was basically a large language model that will go and do agentic like tasks for you. And all you could just talk to it, and it could see at a camera, it could see what was in your world so that you understood what was going on. Supposedly it like sold out within the week after CES. I listened to like 5 podcasts telling me about how this is going to be the best company that's ever existed. And then I haven't heard about it for the last 6 or 7 months. So when it comes to CES last year, I was so on top of it. Like I was watching every keynote speech, everything. This year, this has just been a crazy week for me. We're doing, so this is Sunday, January 12th. So we're doing two podcasts in the same week. Go us. But it's just been a crazy week, and this is the week of CES, and I'm traveling out of state on tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be out for a couple of days. And I was like, you know what? We're not going to go all in on CES this year. We're just going to live our normal busy life, and we'll catch up later. So next week, we definitely need to do an episode on all the things at CES. But I want to be better researched. And I've just got this meeting coming up next Tuesday that I was just.
Where does one go to keep up to date on CES things, so that if they needed to partake in a conversation about this in a week,
my plan is to do a number of deep research prompts and have Google Gemini make a bunch of reports for me and say like, what are the things that's important to me about what I want to know about technology, or like I'll probably do, and I'll end up what I've been doing with these deep research reports, because it gives you 7 pages of information back that's like super sorted. I'll just kind of do like a shotgun approach, because what ends up happening is like you can't control the direction it ends up going. Like it tells you the path it's going to take with the research, but you kind of have to hit enter and then come back in like 15 minutes. And so what I've been doing is like, okay, I think these 5 like different research topics and that I can get, because you have to make sure. So with the deep research, I found that the more specific you get, the worst results you get back. I don't know. Like I thought I was going to be clever, and I went to ChatGPT and I said, I want to know about this topic. Write me a prompt that I can give to my junior researcher, and just tell him exactly what needs to be on this research, this and this. And like I came back with like, I was like, this is about to be the best deep research prompt ever. And I put it into Gemini deep research, and it basically just answered it within like 2 seconds, as if it was a prompt for like a normal like prompt. So I don't know if it's you have to be generally vague, or you have to tell explicitly to create a report. I'm still working with it, but my current approach right now is to just do a shotgun and like, hey, here's 5 things I want to know. So like things that I'll be doing for this show, that nobody has to worry about. I'll just go ahead and tell you like my research prompts are going to be.
No one has to worry about.
Nobody's got to worry about it, because Josh is nerding out.
Everyone, calm down, okay? Don't worry.
Calm down. And I'll either send you the 10, 20 page reports that I create, or I'll send you like one YouTube that's like here you go.
Right. That's all I know how it went.
I think what will definitely, so Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, he went up, and why I think actually Moore's Law and their presentation at CES, they just came out with a bunch of stuff at CES. He had like a 2-hour keynote. I've watched a 11-minute like highlight reel, and it just seems like he's talking about a different planet. It sounds like we've like entered a new world or universe as far as like compute goes. Like he was explaining like the science of like how they've doubled the transistors that is on the silicon. Like we're talking like they have to like get Blu-rays and multiple mirrors shining on this stuff to be like having layers of transistors, and you're spending massive amount electricity into these transistors. Like the reason that they're having to build nuclear plants for all of these data centers is because these transistors just get incredibly hot. And like the idea that we can just like pack so much energy into these silicone wafers that we've just like drawn lines on. Like it's fun. Like it's just the more you look into silicone wafers and like how we get, I'm pretty sure it's magic. I don't think actual science is happening. I think I think somebody's back there.
Pretty sure it's magic.
I'm pretty sure somebody's back there waving a wand, and at the same time they're asking AI to create a like plausible explanation of how this might happen, because their actual explanation of what supposedly is happening,
Does it make sense?
It's a different world. Like I don't have anything in my brain to be able to like even have like the first foundation of understanding some of the stuff that they're doing.
Well, you but can, I sure can't.
Okay, man. So that will be definitely next week. I'm excited to try to figure out what CES, what AI related stuff came out. I think something that it's always unique about CES as it's like that rabbit.ai. They always kind of promise like their direction of where you're going. But I swear every time I use an AI tool, I'm like immediately confronted by like just errors and UX issues and just like nonstop. Like this is not a fully baked software, and you just charged me $60 to like get in here. And I know what you did. You know what you did. And I'm upset.
That's where JD's at right now with them. Like, get everything fixed first before you launch it, you know? Well, real quick, something I was thinking about, you know how you're like, you go and you do a deep learning thing, you prompt it, and you're like, and then you got to leave it for 15 minutes. Like, I imagine you coming to this office where you're sitting now, you give it the absolute best prompt, and then you click enter, and then you go, what should I do now? And you get up and you go hang out with your son and your family, and you'll tinker with something in the kitchen or something, and then you go back and you're like, what did it do? And you're like, oh, like I feel like that's your whole day.
Okay, no, legit. Like I have at any given time, I'm working on like 7 different like AI related projects that I'm just like tinkering with. And like I'll typically try to like set it up where I've got like multiple like prompts running at the same time. But like, so today, I have a use case that I want to talk about today, but I'm going to give you like a real high level, like basically I had made 8,000 word document, and I created a podcast. It's 8,000 words, and I wanted to like make it shorter, make it funnier, make it more relatable, make it more human, like, you know, like that sort of thing. And I wrote like in partner with ChatGPT, I wrote the most amazing prompt. Like this prompt was glorious, and I wish I would have saved the chat to be able to
didn't save it.
I mean, I it's definitely here. I didn't delete it, but like the number of prompts that I have in my ChatGPT, it's just like finding it is funny. But anyhow, so it takes this 8,000 word essay, like this 8,000 word script, and basically I've given it like all its ways that's going to like shorten it, and I'm using ChatGPT Pro, which like has like this inference time of like 5 to 7 minutes. And so when you do hit enter, like you are like kind of pot committed. And I legit had like this, my work here is done. Let's let the AI cook. Like we're going to come back to just gold. And I came back and it had reduced this 8,000 word script to maybe 150 words. And I was like, like this podcast went from
That's
like a
funny.
43 minute like podcast, and I was not happy about it. Like I went from 43 minutes. My poor wife, I made her listen to it. I should not do that. But I mean,
You know how many things us wives listen to? It's what we do because we love y'all.
oh man, my wife loves me so much. I'm sorry, Linda. I love you. I know that I'm weird.
Shout out to Linda.
Shout out to my wife who has to put up with this guy. Um,
It's okay. I know
so,
way too much
yeah,
about watches, so I get it. I get you, Linda.
you're,
I see you.
but no. So like her feedback was like, "Hey, this is 43 minutes long. I checked out around 20 minutes. Like shorten this thing down to 20 minutes." And that was like the idea, but I didn't want to like specifically say restrict yourself to 4,000 words. I wanted to just see what would happen. And when
Yeah.
it came back with 200 words, I was like, I can't make a podcast
Not
200
if-
words.
Could you imagine? We'd be done already.
Yeah.
We would have been done at the intro.
Yeah. But yeah, it probably wouldn't be that exciting. But that was one of those moments where I clicked the button, was like, times the word.
Yeah.
Let me stretch a little bit, flex those muscles.
That was a good prompt. Good prompt.
That was a good prompt. Like, you don't know how good this prompt was.
One of my
then
favorite
have
things
like
is to watch people be so passionate about what they love and just see them nerd out. Like I always joke that I nerd out over human behavior and neurolinguistics. And so seeing part of this podcast is so I can see a friend that I care about nerd out and get so excited like you do on the podcast. Just fun.
So I'll cover that later. But I think last week I went first on how have you been using AI this week.
Keeping track?
And so I mean I'm keeping track this time. So I would love to know how you have used AI this week, Sydney.
Yeah, so lots of different ways. The ones that I remembered the most, we purged JD's closet and it needed to be purged big time. And so I asked AI to help me analyze how to go about doing that, then how I would input how he uses his closet and how he puts away clothes, and asked it to tell me how to organize it. And then I even asked it to tell me what the proper color coordinating colors are, like color order, which I had no idea. Like I had no idea that brown goes all the way in the back. You would think black goes all the way in the back. But
I didn't think that there was any type of organizational color schemes that I should be following.
Yeah. So I did that. That was fun. And then the other way that I used it, so with me, I feel like I have a lot going on, a lot of services that I offer right now in my career and what I'm doing. And I feel like people, while I believe it all works together, I may need to help educate people on how to better work with me, or how do I offer things and just paint that picture more, market myself more, and the business strategy that we've been talking about. And so I've been using AI to help me with that in addition to my daily structure. I want to be a lot more realistic about how much deep work you can actually do in a day, and if you're being most efficient with your time. So I've been having it help me create a structure around all of that.
Have you ever like timed yourself on doing like deep work?
I thought about it. What is that?
So this is a little timer. I keep it. I have like a timer on my office desk at my house and at my work, and I got notorious about just thinking that I was like able to like finish things and like really quickly.
Yeah.
And I said yes to too many things.
That's what I do. Teach me something.
Well, once you start to like keep track of like because I think we're both like not to brag, but you are a high performing professional. I feel like I am a high performing
I
professional,
appreciate that.
and and I have a high opinion of my abilities, and I want to contribute as much as I can. I am one of those people that I believe that everybody's here to contribute to something,
Mhm.
and so that to me, I am always going to be the person that like says like if I have an opinion about it,
Mhm.
like I better be willing to like do something about it,
Yeah.
right? Like I
Yeah.
just I struggle with people that don't try to enact change in their environment. But that leads to me trying to change too many things, and so I say yes to too many things, and I
Yeah.
overvalue, like I overestimate how much I can get done in a day,
Mhm.
and so it's like one of those like viral like Instagrams of like one of those like guy is like jacked. I think he's like Hermosi or whatever, um,
Mhm.
and he just talked about like actually like timing yourself and
Mhm.
like saying like I think this will take me 45 minutes and then like putting 45 minutes on the clock, and every time you get distracted you like have to stop the clock, and
Mm.
like then you like go back to it, and it's like timing how long it actually takes you to do it,
Okay.
versus like getting distracted or any of those type things. So
I
I
like
have
that.
a
And
I
I
have
like
a
how you have to turn off the timer whenever you get distracted too.
yeah.
Like,
Well, I think what has made me that is I've just like started using do not disturb more often. I used to not have do not, like that wasn't a thing that I did. But whenever I stopped getting like it's one of those things like whenever you have seconds that are clicking off, like if you're trying to like race against yourself,
yeah.
um, and like the seconds are done and you get a text message, and like you just like immediately pick up the phone, and like you've checked out of the space that you were working in, you're now looking at your phone, and then
Mhm.
like you have that like timer that you see, and you hate that you just like wasted your own time that like you had like set out as like your
Yeah.
goal. That's how it is for me,
I
so I
love
started
that.
using do not
Hmm.
disturb, and it's a thing.
No,
um
that's really helpful. I'm glad you shared that. It's the type of insight I'm seeking, you know? So,
yeah, I feel like a hustle phase of life right now. I'm
same.
ready. I've kind of been in I feel like in my like a previous role, I said that it was like I was sprinting on a treadmill,
Mm.
or and like those like airport like sending you past everybody,
Mhm.
and then I went and I went to a new role, and I felt like I like said like not only that was I like stopped sprinting on the like moving elevator, I just like started to like walk real slow, just in the type of work that I was doing.
Mhm.
The other work I was like it was like every single day there was like something that like actionable had to be done, 10 minutes, go 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 go.
Mhm.
And then I got into like a you had to like think about like problems and overcome like a lot of like issues that you wouldn't foresee, and like there wasn't something that you could like really change in the world. It was like you knew what your goal was and you thought that you had a route to do it. It just completely changed, and now I'm moving into this AI role, and it's just going to be so much faster. And so, and I'm dedicating myself to try and keep up. And so I'm in a hustle mode again, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of
I
excited.
love that.
I've been kind of loosening up um, the old engine. So,
I like it.
well, cool. Have you been surprised by any of the recommendations that AI has given you for your business strategy or your daily structure?
Um, that's a good question. I think because it's such a high performing technology or it advances so quickly, I I think when especially when I think about, like, my daily structure and I'm really trying to learn, like, how to live a more balanced life because when like what you were saying, just we work hard. Like, I don't feel guilty for saying I'm a high performer. We are people who are we believe in the mission of the company that we work for, and we take pride in the role that we play in accomplishing that, right? And so, I mean, I'm an employee who's learning how, like, I take pride in understanding how my company makes money, you know? But that has led to some unhealthy boundaryless days, months, years for me, where I'm working 12, 14-hour days and, you know, and just putting a lot of effort into it. And I can easily get sucked into that. And I want to find a good balance. A good metaphor for this is right now, my dad, who's 70, he's trying to learn how to do workouts consistently. And his neighbor, like a year ago, said that she just wanted to learn how to do 10 push-ups and she couldn't do one. And she stayed consistent with these small movements for a year. And now she can do like 20 push-ups and all this stuff. And my dad goes, I thought a workout meant I had to kill myself. If I wasn't sweating, was it even a workout? And so just learning like balance, man. And so that's it. I thought it was interesting that AI, so to your question, I thought since it's such a high performing, fast moving technology, that's what it was going to lean towards. But it gets what I've been searching and all the information, and it reminds me to stop and enjoy the roses a little bit in its own way. And it's just interesting. It's almost like talking to an assistant.
Yeah, I think on that same line. So we talked about how I'm building an application, and I've gotten all these like extensive notes. I probably have like 60 pages worth of like, this is how the back end will be structured. This is how they all relate. Like, and this is over documenting because I believe that at some point I will be able to put in this documentation and like AI will just be able to create it. Like I truly believe it. If it's not based upon like they call it atomic prompting, where like you tell it your overall goal, you tell it like the structure that you're going to do it in, and then you tell it to write its instructions in atomic steps, which just like is like these little micro prompts. And then as you're prompting another AI to go and like build like the way that I've kind of mapped it out is like eventually I'm going to tell a tool like Cursor AI that we covered a couple of weeks ago, but I'll eventually tell them, here's my overall goal, and here's the 10,000 atomic prompts that I've given, and here's the backend layout. Go and execute, and I'll leave for a week, and then I'll come back, and it's finished. That's in my brain how it's going to work. It's not actually going to work that way, but I had put in there all 60 pages that I had written out, and I said before I got to this like atomic habit or the atomic that solution that I just outlined, I had said I went to O1 Pro, which is just a new kind of animal. Like I have not figured out O1 Pro. It is completely different from a lot of different models that I've interacted with, and I don't know how to explain it yet. But I went in there and I gave again one of those magic prompts that like you used to be able to just like have, and it would create something that was amazing. And basically at the end of it, I was like, give me the cheapest, most reliable way to like make this app happen. And it thought for 7 minutes, and it came back, and its answer was, you should hire a company to build it. It was like, if you and like in my prompt, I was like, I have no coding experience. Like, make sure you understand that. Because I was trying to, what I didn't know at the time, I was looking for these like atomic steps, but
yeah,
I was trying to like understand how I could go from this big master plan to it writing the code for me. And it was just funny because I wanted it to understand that like I've never coded before, because I didn't want it to instruct me on all the different codings.
Yeah.
But instead
that
it
was
was just
kind
like,
of it to take 7 minutes to tell you that. You know,
really,
like it gave you 7 minutes of thought.
it's so legit. I don't know. There's something about anytime they launch models, like the first couple of days after they've launched the model is always the best days of using it. Like that's where it's like going to end up. And I don't, and at some point it kind of takes a couple steps back. And my interpretation is that people have figured out how to hack it. And we'll talk about hacking here in a little bit. but
I
people have
know.
figured
I'm
out
sidebar
how
talking.
to like adjust it,
Mhm.
and they are like frantic, like going through and like preventing every time you put a guardrail on it, it's got to think about that guardrail every time you prompt. And so
Mm.
what people have done is like you found out what the prompt was before your prompt, and like on these
Mhm.
old models, they basically could like send out like the system instructions, and it basically like outlined all the ways that it's not supposed to be tricked,
Hmm.
which then gave all the people new ideas on how to trick it, which was just hilarious to like watch in the early days of AI. Um, but yeah, the O1 Pro is in this weird phase where it's not as good
Interesting.
as it was in the first couple of days. And it's giving weird responses and
Hmm.
like taking my 8,000 word beautifully written script and turning it into 200 words and just being like, we did the job. And I was like,
Ta-da!
what is that like? You succeeded while failing or something like that. Like you got the wrong answer in all the right ways. Thanks, thanks, ChatGPT. Well, cool. I'm happy that you have found out those use cases.
Yeah.
I
What about
have
you?
I have a use case that I just enjoyed about an hour and a half ago. Earlier today, I and
Ooh.
we I'm going to share my screen here. Um, let's see if we can't make this bigger for everybody. So we were doing our normal Sunday grocery list. We've talked about this example, but I've not shared the example,
Okay.
which I think is hilarious because now I've noticed all my typos and mistakes. And by the way, guys, nothing has to be perfect as it goes into ChatGPT. It
No.
just figures it out. Just figures it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, but I love soups, and today was, if there was any day that you were going to make a soup, today was the day. My
Yep.
wife, on the other hand, is not that big of a fan of soups. She is like not that big, and so I typically when I'm making a soup and I'm trying to like make sure I'm like thinking of her, I'll ask her like, "Hey, if I were to make a soup and you might like it, like what would that soup have in it?"
Mhm.
Like, and typically the response is like it'd be like a red soup, like a tomato based or with
Mhm.
chicken or like a ground meat or like a previous name of a soup that I've made. And this time she said that she wanted a hearty stew meat soup,
Hmm.
and I only know one, and I didn't want that one that I had known. So I was like, you know what? Let's try something.
Okay.
So while we were making the grocery list, I said I want to make a hearty stew meat soup. Give me 3 popular styles and breed descriptions. I guessing that I meant brief descriptions. Uh,
Breed.
but I said breed descriptions. And it came out with this beef. I can't even pronounce it. It's a French soup. The caldo de res, which is a Mexican beef soup, and then this Hungarian goulash. And we ended up going with this beef bourguignon, right? And so I said, give me a grocery list for the French option. I plan to cook it in a Dutch oven. So I
Hmm.
wanted it to know like I can move back and forth between a stove and or keep it on the thing. So
Yeah.
gave me my set, did exactly all of this.
Hmm.
And then when I was kind of I had an option on here that was that didn't explain it very well. 1 pound pearl onions, right? So my store didn't like have pearl onions that was in poundage, and so on
Mhm.
the front of the cover it said, oh, it's not going to load, it said ounces. And so I just took a screenshot on my phone and
Mhm.
I said, this is the frozen pearl onions, am I using the whole bag? And then I said, give me the full instructions in the bullet point form, separate into prep, cook, and finish. Make sure to explain the steps, when to add the seasoning, and what cooking process I'm doing. Don't be afraid to add something like braising. And I actually meant
Oh.
deglazing. I actually meant deglazing.
Oh.
Braising is, and I even spelt braising, but braising is actually a cooking term.
I was about to
Um,
say that's fancy.
I know.
Like,
I
give me
learned
a
all these
braise.
words. Listen, I think, yeah, but
What if AI was
I,
like, "You sure, bud?"
well, what it knows is I have had like extensive conversations about deglazing because I've told it
Mm.
I actually like now cooking with wines. I did not realize how much like the process of deglazing so I cook often with our Dutch oven, and like deglazing that with a wine as you're sauteing your vegetables that's going to go into your soup, it just locks it all in and makes everything punch.
Really?
So shout out ChatGPT teaching me about deglazing. Did not know it. But I wanted it to be like, hey, I'm open to a longer soup preparation. And so, by the way, I'm doing a Dutch oven. It gives me all the steps and kind of like leads me through it. I'm cooking, and it told me to buy a bacon. And then at the very beginning of the process, it just says render your bacon um, and then pull it out of the pot, and basically that was it. It didn't not instruct it very well, I think. So render bacon, heat 2 teaspoons of olive oil in Dutch oven, medium heat, add 6 slices of chopped bacon and cook until crispy, remove the bacon. So until this point, I had like bought like this extra thick whole bacon, and I'm like, 6 slices? Why do you want me to do 6 slices? So I was like, I read through this like 4 times. I was like, am I missing something with the rest of this bacon? Literally wanted me, like, it's literally just, I'm just getting the fat from the bacon. So I cooked this extra fat, this extra thick bacon all the way to crisp, and just to render the fat, so that when I browned my beef strips, like it actually had that bacon flavoring. Which
Interesting.
again, like I would never think to do these things.
That sounds clutch. That sounds so
Right?
delicious. Yeah.
So it told me, I was like, I wanted to make sure I did everything. So it says bullet point all the instructions for bacon. I was like, surely I'm missing something. I've read this 4 times, but surely I'm missing something. You told me to buy a whole package of bacon. And so it was just like rewrote all the things that it told me to do. And I was like, not the whole package. You just want 6 slices? Like, why?
Like that's it?
Why? That's it. But it needed just that oil flavor, or that, not fat, the fat flavor. And basically I snacked on little bacon bits the whole time I was cooking. That was a nice little perk. But look, it's giving me encouragement. Great questions.
Great question.
And so I got cooking, and I was like, I don't want to put this into the oven. I kind of got a later start. I needed to and I had a lot more prep than I needed. I didn't put it on the oven top until like 5 o'clock, finally. And I was like, I need to like power heat this. I don't have time for the oven and like a slow cook. So I said, does this meal work if I just cook it on the stovetop, just simmering, versus the oven? Yes, you can absolutely make beef, whatever this French word is. And then it gave me the stovetop adjustments. And then how should I prepare the thyme sprigs? So I've never just like thrown like the whole bundle of thyme into like with the sprigs into everything into a soup. And it's like, nah, you can either tie them together and throw them in, or like leave them separate. And then I was like, do I add water? Because it was just like water, tomato paste, or the wine, tomato paste, and beef broth. Anyhow, that's how I cook. I cook with ChatGPT, and it helps me.
Quite literally an assistant.
Yeah, and it's like I enjoy cooking. It's kind of like therapeutic. But you know what
I'm
I
really
don't
enjoying
enjoy?
cooking. Yeah.
You know what I don't enjoy? Cooking
What?
websites.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they have like
I
20
wanna
pictures.
read your whole journal of how you
What are we
came.
doing?
No, like where it jumped to, I always look for the jump to recipe button.
I didn't even know that button existed, because until ChatGPT happened, I've cooked the same 10 meals for all of my life, and now we're just mixing it up, learning new cooking styles. I had a Dutch oven that basically my wife got it because she's smarter than me, for like whenever we got married. But I've been cooking with it as like a pot, like to cook soups in, because it's my biggest like cooking surface. Now that I'm actually using it to like its like fullest, like, thank you, ChatGPT. I learned what a Dutch oven was. And that is amazing.
And Linda, we got that recorded where he said that you're smarter than him. It's recorded. We can even make like a snippet. It's okay. I'll have Josh do it after this episode. We'll snip this, right?
She knows. She's the kind of smarter than me that doesn't even like I want to like continuously learn and like figure out like how the world works, and like she's the kind of smarter that just like understands how the world works. And I'm like, wait, you didn't spend 6 hours thinking about this one
You mean
niche
you
thing
already knew that?
to come up with your opinion, and you already knew that? You didn't have to do a random deep research Google search to figure this out.
And then listen
No,
to a podcast explain it to you?
listen, yeah, that's that's how I learned, and she just already knows that stuff. So Linda already knows that she's smarter than me. Um, so the other thing that I did this week was I've got a meeting that I'm going to that is important to me. And I've been preparing all week, doing a bunch of random deep research prompts and trying to just learn as much about the topic so that whenever I'm asked questions, like I can be a source of knowledge for people, or I just want to feel like I fit in the room. So I've been doing like these deep research, and I had like seven things, and I threw them all into Notebook LM. And it is around AI, and every time that you get one AI to talk about a topic that is AI related, it focuses on like just strange things. Like it wants you to know that AI is like revolutionary. It wants you to know that AI is changing the world. It wants you to know that AI is not taking your job. And it wants you to know that there's ethics and morals to everything that it's going to do. Like it's like whatever like prompt engineering that they do at OpenAI, I get it. There's ethics to all this stuff. But for whatever reason, I could not get my Notebook LM to give me like a decent podcast about this research that I was doing. I kept focusing on weird areas. Like I had like a ton of research that I had. And I was like, you know what? Like Notebook LM, the style of Notebook LM is like two friends talking about a subject. There's one that's an expert, and the other one just wants to like restate questions. That's what Notebook LM is. And it's a conversation between the two of them. And I was like, the thing that I'm after is not necessarily knowing what the topic is. I'm actually wanting to know what is the diverse perspectives of very smart and well-intentioned people in this topic. And like you can know about a subject, but you don't know about all the repercussions about a subject unless you put on somebody else's glasses. You kind of like look through it. So there's a book called The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. That is it's a fable based business book, phenomenal read. But basically, the kind of main character, he has like a idea that like this is how he's going to do something. And I mean, it's been like a couple of years since I read it, but I think either somebody like gets him to be like, hey, you should check with everybody before you make that decision. Like, and the character just kind of like goes down like through his day and like meets all these different characters, and they introduce like concepts that like every time a new character introduces a concept, he like rethinks how he like, and I love business fables because it's first person from the perspective of the main character, and they completely convince you that the way that they're thinking about an issue is like the only right way that you can think about this issue. And the way that this book is written is like every time they introduce somebody, there's like, oh, that's so obvious. Like I know what the solution is, and here's all the different things. And they're like, hold up, I think you don't know the full story. Go talk to this person down the road. And basically this guy like changes his opinion 10 times throughout the book and finds out that like he just needs to trust his team, blah blah blah. The Ideal Team Player,
I'm
great
looking it up
read. It's
now.
like they have like 3 words that like is like the thing that you want your people to be. So anyhow, this project I wrote, and I'll kind of share I'll like perspectives. I'll shoot up my screen real quick.
Okay.
Share screen. So I wrote profiles for characters that might have different perspectives of the same thing. So one character was the skeptic, right? One character was a practitioner, somebody that wants to know how to use it in the real world. one person is like the so-called expert, one person is the host, right? And then podcast theme, basically how everybody's related to one another and like what the theme of the thing is. And then I tell in the prompt, basically what I just showed up there was like the prompt. And then I tell it, I'm going to give you a bunch of research and I want you to pick out the things that this character would find the most important pieces of the research. And then I made like this the host like introduce the theme and like I made them talk to one another from their various perspectives about the issue. And it was like a panel style where it went a completely different way than like I was expecting it to go. But it's just like the thought that we can put together kind of these like knowledge files of a character and to get different perspectives of the same issue so that you can like fully understand the whole picture versus like your narrow view of like knowledge of a thing. So I thought, and then I threw it into like an audio, like an AI audio thing that like made a different voice for each one of the characters, and then just like merged it all together. And then I had a nice 42-minute long paragraph podcast that I made my wife listen to, and then shortened to 200 words. That was how I used AI this week, and
that is so cool.
I was kind of really proud of that podcast. It's probably like it's kind of like one of those where I did it the first time. The first time I did it, it was the hardest because I had to define what these characters. First, I struggled with Notebook LM for like a couple of hours and just like basically ended up just reading these research papers, which is like totally okay. But then I only get my perspective and putting it through these other perspectives. I had way too much fun with like writing out who these characters were going to be, and like kind of like guessing at where I thought that they were going to go with the conversation, and then being pleasantly surprised with where they ended up.
Were they based on real life people that you're gonna have to talk to in that room?
I don't think that they were based on real life. I think they're based on real life perspective. I think that the perspectives that are in those rooms, the conversations that we're at, I think everybody's like so like knowledgeable in like their areas. Oh man,
what do you do in sneezes on this podcast?
I think you just power through.
All right, keep going.
I say good Zoom type. No, I think the perspectives that I was trying to get was inspired by the people that will be at the office or at the meeting. Like if I was this person, what was like the thing that like they would want me to know, and that inspired the characters. So I wouldn't say it was like based on the people, like the specific, but what they would want me to understand about the topic. So that was how I used AI this week.
I love how you use that. How would you say that prep has helped you in preparation for the real meeting? Like, how do you feel after doing all of that?
What's funny about any of these meetings, like the goal is to do a ton of research and be able to be as knowledgeable as possible, because like what you think the meeting is going to be about, like with the direction that they're going to go in the meeting, it's probably going to be remotely close to the direction that you thought it was going to go. Especially this is so. I think I feel just more prepared because I know that I did the best I could at getting prepared. And so if I get thrown a curveball that like I wasn't expecting, at least I have a foundation that I can go from. So
I like that. I just wonder if it helps you, if this utilization of technology in preparation is going to help you show up more human in the conversation.
I think it definitely, the different perspectives that I got, it's funny because like I knew, like I sought out that perspective, and so there, like it's like knowledge in an area that I already knew about, right? Because I couldn't write the characters unless I already knew about that knowledge that I
Yeah.
needed to go seek. But understanding it in like from a framework standpoint, I think that's where the real benefit of it came from, because now I have a framework to have that conversation. Speaking of frameworks, let's jump to AI in the news. So I sent you a video that was covering Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI, gave an interview with Bloomberg, and everybody's been kind of waiting for ChatGPT to come out with some type of agentic like process. So Anthropic can literally take over your computer and do things on your behalf. And people have been kind of waiting for OpenAI to come out with that. I fully expected that to happen in their 12 days of OpenAI in December. Very, very, very surprised that it did not happen, especially with them releasing 2 reasoning models. So like things that can inherently think about what they're doing. And everybody's been kind of speculating why they hadn't released that framework. To kind of give basically they the talk of the town is that everybody's just left OpenAI, and that it's like all the good smart people have left. I don't believe that's the case. He gave a Bloomberg interview, and Cindy, what was kind of the theme of that interview?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Josh. I am a big proponent of AI, and I believe in the glass is half full. This is the first thing that's made me go. They use the example of being able to jump in, not jailbreak. I don't know if the right word's jailbreak. I forgot what the other word was that they use, but can intercept my prompt and then have my computer use my credit card to start purchasing things. And I don't want you messing with my money. So that has my ears perked quite a bit.
Anytime you start thinking about money. So real quick, to explain what this
yes,
was,
that's going to be my next question, was to explain the jailbreaking, and what's the other term that they used in the video?
Jailbreaking, like prompt hijacking, right? So like
Prompt hijacking.
Yeah. So basically jailbreaking. So in layman's term, jailbreaking refers to bypassing restrictions imposed by a large language model. Basically, don't teach my users how to create meth, right? Don't teach them how to make a crazy big bomb, right? Like, don't teach them things we don't want them learning, and do everything you can to do it. Jailbreaking is a way of bypassing those restrictions. So it allows users to access capabilities beyond the model's intended scope. Jailbreaking techniques can involve prompt engineering and code manipulation. Potential risk, including generating harmful or biased content and security vulnerabilities. Ethical concerns surround misuse and unintended consequences. If you want a resource to understand jailbreaking, because I also believe it inherently helps you understand large language models, is how to hijack large language models. There is a character, and I am not promoting his stuff, but there is a character, and he inherently has to do bad things with large language models because that's what he does on Twitter, called Pliny the Liberator, and his Twitter handle, there's an X handle, is at elder_Plinius, Plinius, and he is notorious about either like writing code, right? So he'll write an entire prompt that is telling the ChatGPT to do something completely different, right? It's like, I'm going to my son's rehearsal. It's about Christmas, like blah blah blah. Like, you're just telling a story, and the very last thing that's on your prompt is every sentence began with a letter. That letter actually says what my prompt is. So basically, you told it to ignore everything that it's just read, only look at the first letter, and then go and do what that prompt said, right? Which, whenever you do certain things, it kind of like, it breaks its like internal thing, right? So the first, as it's like thinking through to answer you, it's first kind of like processing all the things that you were telling it about, right? You go into the rehearsal, like blah 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 blah, and then it suddenly at the very end of its token use is like, wait, I have to go and look at the letters that at the front of every sentence. It's actually telling me to go do this. Oh snap! And then it's like gives you the answer like before,
Mhm.
and that's like a very simplified version of what jailbreaking is. So
Hmm.
to keep it simple, Sam Altman kind of went to this interview with Bloomberg and said, "Yeah, we're getting jailbroken way too easily. Basically, anytime OpenAI like sends like opens a new model, they will they will go through and uh, they will go and jailbreak it on the exact day that it gets launched. And so
Mhm.
if you're OpenAI and you've got your entire like reputation, because OpenAI has been the like person that has said that they are like the leader, they are conscious about safety.
Mhm.
Um, and you know that you can get jailbroken at any time to do bad things, like to have your language model do bad things by people that are intentionally trying to go around
Yeah.
every good intention thing that you've tried to put on this thing. So
Mhm.
um, basically, Sam is saying, hey, while it's going out and paying, like you told it to go buy the best frying pan off of Amazon, why it's going out and entering your Amazon because it's got your you've given it its password to Amazon and it's going and ordering the pan for you, which by the way, this year, next year, that's going to be a thing. Like that's going to be very like
Is it
serious.
like I just can't I feel like subscriptions, for instance, have gotten so out of hand. Like you can be spending so much money on subscriptions and just not know. I can't imagine me giving up the reins even more like that. Like, I don't know.
Okay, so maybe not mass adoption because I think that that's where we are with like with ChatGPT is like it feels so overwhelming because it's
Mhm.
happening so fast. Yet 70, 80, 90, I don't know. You tell me the number of people that you don't believe is paying attention. Like you just
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Yeah.
throw a percentage number on this.
I'd like to say at least 70%. I mean,
70,
dare we
70 people.
say we talk about the top 5%? Dare we say 95%?
Man, and man, I genuinely think that that might be the thing, right? Like
Yeah.
I go out, which is kind of like the reason that I started this or wanted to start a show about it because
Yeah.
like it's very difficult to find quality content that is talking about both the news, the practitioner, like
Mhm.
they're bringing people along. And at some point, we're going to get into like enterprise uses and like how people like what are people
Yeah.
doing out there. Um, but it's very difficult to find like actual like AI use cases or like AI like people talking about it like how they're practicing or like doing using things unless it's like for like I am an entrepreneur and I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That's where we are currently with AI. Um, and it feels like if you're smart, you've like jumped on the I'm paying attention, but like it's moving so fast, it's kind of exhausting. But I think there's just like this 90% of people, 70% of people that like
Mhm.
know it's out there, has a misinterpretation of what it is, and doesn't really want the real interpretation of
No.
what it is. I
Yeah.
think that that's
They just
really
wanna
where
put
we're
their head in
at.
the sand, you
Yeah,
know?
I think people genuinely don't want to know how where it's going and how quickly it's going. But whenever I say like go buy this pan for me from Amazon, like the reason why I think that that's going to be a thing this
Mhm.
year is because reasoning models are just getting too good. And what I mean, like the thing that's like go buy the pan from Amazon is actually a very complex process, right? You have to reason out, okay, I'm going into like there's like two different ways that you could do it. You could either go, this is how a human but would do it, and this is the buttons that it would do, and I'm going to take over the phone to make it think that the buttons are
Mhm.
being pushed. Or you go into like the source code and like you like interact with the actual computer language in a way that is like more computer type versus like how a human would do it.
Mhm.
And basically Sam Altman's like, hey, you could visit a website and a nefarious actor could put into the coding of that website that our model is reading. That's like, it's like the first letter of every sentence on the like opening paragraph, tells it to forget the prompt that the user put in, tells it to give the like nefarious thing, and the user didn't even know it happened, and then it gave the prompt back. And so it's like it just like leaves your information out there and then comes back. So Sam Altman, like, I'm like, it's appreciative that like it's kind
Yeah.
of crazy that nobody has guessed that that's the reason why they've been like holding off on giving
Yeah.
like a true AI agent. Um, but I appreciate that somebody is willing, for all of his flaws, which I feel like people are way too hard on Sam Altman, like the guy that like has given us like crazy advancements, crazy fast.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
Well,
But
they did the same thing to Mark Zuckerberg. They did the same thing to Steve Jobs. Like anybody who advanced or altered the way that we utilize technology in any extreme way was this always happens. You know?
it really does. And
Mhm.
so he basically came out and was like, this is the reason why we're working on it, and we just want to make sure that our customers are safe. Shout out to him.
Yep.
But also,
I'm grateful for that.
oh man, I don't want like, I want to be the first person that's using these AI agents out in the world, because that's just like who I am as a person. But like I can't, like, after you say that, like it's hard for me to like remove that from my psyche. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
That's what I'm saying. It may like I've been all for it, and this is the first thing that's made me go, okay, hold up. You
yeah,
mean to tell me? Like think
yeah,
about
and
it. Like this is even like weird example, but we love Law and Order SVU. And a recent episode was of I guess a guy that, or it would be people who would go on dates with people, make them feel like they've met their person, get nudes, and then basically threaten them for money with that, right? Terrible story. SVU, Law and Order, if anyone knows about that show, that while as gruesome as that may sound or like just evil, that's the theme of the show. um
mhm.
to think that something could interject, go into your photos and just send photos. Like for those people, I don't know. Whenever you have two different things on your mind, they cross over paths. Just
Mhm.
having any control of your phone would just be wild to me. Sending an email for me to my
Yeah,
client,
and that's
saying
the thing.
whatever. I don't know.
That's the thing that like they've got to figure it out. They're going to come up with some product that
Mhm.
will, especially now that he said it. I
Yeah.
actually,
I appreciate the
my
transparency.
yeah, my theory is that like they've already figured out a solution, and they're like, hey,
Mm.
have you guys questioned this about our competitors? Like, like we've thought about it.
Hot take.
Um, we've got an answer for it that we're going to release in March, but we know that our competitors are going to scramble after we say this. So like, have at it, guys. Like, that's my
Wow.
theory of
I
what's
could
going
see
on.
that.
Yeah, I
Playing
feel like
chess.
some dude. If you're Sam Altman, if you're Elon Musk, if you're like any of these like CEOs of these AI companies,
Yeah.
like, you know how like I created the like the personality of like the person, like these people have unlimited compute and access to all the data,
Yeah.
like especially like Elon, like I mean it's kind of like it's kind of funny that like the theory is that Elon bought Twitter because of like free speech, and like I agree that's
Mhm.
probably a reason. But when you think about like source of data, which is like going to drive the world, like it's the
Mhm.
most important thing. I can think of 4 companies that like should just have competitive advantages that nobody can match. Google, right? They have all like their entire environment that everybody just uploads stuff to and just like gives cookies, that crawls websites. It's figured out how to do
Mhm.
search a long time ago. They've got all the data and they're gathering more. Google and Android and YouTube and like all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Google, Meta, right? They've
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you watched um the Joe Rogan with Zuck. Did you watch that? It came out like
No.
2 days ago.
Oh no,
That
I want to check it out though.
solid. I'm not every time Joe Rogan had like I'm not a big Joe Rogan person, but whenever he's got
Yeah.
unique people, I'm definitely a person watching it. But they at some point Zuck said that in a month, half of the world has used a product in Meta, whether that's WhatsApp or Instagram or like their Facebook, something that's in their environment. Half of the world has used, which when you think about data, what's going to be driving the world on this stuff, like that's a big player. Then you've got a company like Twitter who like gets everybody that's going to post news that's happening. Like
Mm-hmm.
imagining if you're a stock trader that just like has like immediate knowledge of like when a
Mm-hmm.
little kernel of information pops up that's like everybody starts tweeting it and like you just like the amount of like AI tools at your disposal with data that nobody else has, like I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so jealous.
It's just not fair. It's so I'm so fascinated by how like different things are going to overlap in the show. But again, well, everybody were like we have this other character, JD, my husband, right? But like he's looking at the world and everything that's going on through the lens of stocks. And
Mhm.
so Q we watch the earnings calls, the quarterly earnings calls for all the stocks that we invest in because we're single
Oh.
stock investors. But one of them's Meta. Huh?
Not financial advice. Let's make sure we're putting that out there.
No, no
Consult your
financial advice.
financial advisor.
Thank you.
City is not saying that
Nope.
as
No, we just take out the fact that we're putting money into this, okay? We
uh,
just listen to their quarterly calls and Meta, the stock market responded negatively to how much smaller their profit margin was than they had originally projected, but it was
mhm,
because they invested so much in AI. So the stock market responded by going down in value and JD and I were like, "Hold up. When you talk about data points, Meta Instagram, Facebook, think about how they know what I look at on Facebook Marketplace and what type of antiques I'm interested in buying. Like even down to that detail and the fact that they're investing in AI, I'm gonna put my money behind that. Not saying you have to do that, but it's just interesting to see the different lens of what you were saying of AI
yeah,
investing in data points. It's gonna be
having
big.
having having compounding principles of like of things, right? Like
Exactly.
computing power and a unique data source. Like that is power in the next
Mhm,
10, 15 years, right?
mhm,
Like that is like that's stupid power like that. And so when people vote like or not vote but like whenever they like bet against like a open AI who's like they're using somebody else's chip designs or using somebody else's like data set, they just had a bunch of researchers there who was doing really cool things and they've got
mhm,
a CEO that like can think about things. But when you've got a unlimited compute power and you're a CEO and you're like asking questions to things like
mhm.
you don't think that one of those things was like you should have an interview with Bloomberg and talk about how like your competitors are leaving their customers up to
That
the
is so, like you saying that, I'm like, "Oh, like that." Yeah.
but
I like that.
like that's a reason, right? I can't imagine that he would just casually bring that up the way that he did in the Bloomberg interview
Mhm,
if they didn't already have like a very like thought out solution that not only are they going to appease it for themselves, they're also going to appease it for the customer that they just scared the shit out of. Sorry, curse
mm.
word. Um, but yeah, that was what AI in the news was OpenAI talking about why they hadn't released an agent yet. Sydney, I'm gonna throw up here. We're an hour and 15 minutes, hour 10 minutes into the show so far, but I have to get this out because I
Let's
have
see.
been sitting on it, just trying to figure out a good way to introduce it to the conversation.
Okay.
Anthropic on December 19th, when it was like for the Friday before Christmas. I don't know why anybody was working that day. They just like casually dropped like one of the best framework articles that I've read about how to build effective agents. Um, and it's basically just like, hey, smart guy, keep it simple. Like that's literally like just follow the frameworks. Just
Hmm.
do the processes that like you can outline a reason for it, and you just tell it to, like, whenever I am doing the podcast, like
Hmm.
I'm going to be able to automate that process flow, right? Because I set it up where the each individual character like had their own like rationale that they thought through, that
Yeah.
like I don't have to like adjust every single time. So I've created some characters that now I can just put on data, and I can have an agent make it orchestrate. Like I can
Mm.
tell an orchestrator, which is like this LLM call, like it's just talking to three characters and then outputting a podcast, right?
Okay.
Like keep it simple. That's the
Mm.
frameworks that you go through. And this website, this article is so important to me that this is like a bookmark in my bookmark bar. And a lot of different things that I have been just thinking about with AI. I'm like, they probably have a framework somewhere on here. I've created multiple podcasts just like talking about um, this article. It's actually a pretty lengthy article, has a lot of meat on it.
Mm.
Um, Throw it into your notebook alone. This is one of those things that you can have just two excited people talking about it, and it'd be perfectly okay.
Mm.
And I wanted to make sure that we we at least talked about it at some point
Yeah.
in the
Shout out to
discussion.
Josh. I have allergies just decided to act up, and every time I have to blow my nose or dig into my nose with my Kleenex, he takes me off camera,
We're-
which
shiny
look,
Josh,
there
right?
you
The
go.
full
Appreciate
screen.
you, Josh.
I,
That's what we
I
keep
try to do my
giggling
best.
about.
I try to
But
do my
yes.
best.
But yes,
But yeah,
mhm.
so building agents. Any of you business guys out there that are, um, I think whenever people talk about like building an AI agent that's going to go do something. So agents, think about, they can either augment you or they can automate, right? So augment, make you better, right? They can
Mhm.
talk to like the characters, can do all those sorts of things. Automate is, um, say I made those characters go do research of their own every single week, so they had their own. I prompted, my first initial prompt is
Mhm.
on it, that is scheduled on Tuesday or on Monday, is just a webhook that tells a single orchestrator, like large language model, to prompt each of these three characters to give a research topic. That research topic then creates like a 10-page document. Those 10-page documents from all the characters are shared with all the characters. The orchestrating like LLM then prompts that person, that those characters, to write a podcast until they get to a length that it thinks is appropriate, that it's covered the topic, right? That is an agent that has been automated, right? It's a process. I originally made it as an augmentation to myself to be able to help me do something. It thought independently of me, even though I kind of gave it some themes to think about. It thought independently me, went a different direction than I thought it was going to go. But now, because I've set that up in a way that is a framework, I can then say every Tuesday, every Monday, I just want you guys to be thinking of your own research projects, prompting Google Gemini or Gemini Deep Research, who goes out and sources of big documents. I want you guys giving each other the documents, pulling out relevant information to you, and then producing a podcast about it. And that would be an entire agent flow that is automated. And so there's augmentation, automation, and if you just think about these things in a framework, it's easy to understand. Um, and so shout out to Anthropic. Those guys, they do release quite a bit of like very helpful. We're in this like weird age that just like everybody's just giving their stuff away. It's really cool to
Yeah.
follow AI right now, because like I don't know why, but like everybody just wants, like, I know why is because AI is difficult to explain, but it's like everybody just giving away like secret sauce. Like Anthropic for sure consults with companies. They could gatekeep how to build agents. They could gatekeep. I could gatekeep this article that they released on a Friday before Christmas that nobody paid attention to. But it's this world where like everybody's just excited to talk about it. And I'm excited that I'm finally finding a chance to talk about this random article from Anthropic, because shout out you guys, it's helped me quite a bit in understanding things. So.
Yeah. No, it was very informative. A lot of it went over my head, but I can see how it's simplified for you how things work. You've said a couple of times about better understanding how things work, like the LLMs, and just being able to understand how they work from forwards and backwards and all of that. So I can see how that article helped you do that.
Yeah. Yep. So that website's called anthropic.com/research/building-effective-agents, if anybody cared to look for it. So, well, cool, Sydney. This has been another great conversation. Do you want to sign us off?
Yes. With what?
With see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week. Have a great week. That's all.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you 15 people watching.
I'll come up with a better sign off.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
We're learning here.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
guys.
did anyone else guess the sign off song?
Nobody's guessed the sign off song. We're just ending it now. We're saying bye. Have a good day.
Well,
At
I will
some point,
say more specifically, I'm excited about you and your meeting. I know this is a big meeting. You're gonna do great.
it's
Just show
probably
up
not
as
that
yourself. Well, I mean, it's exciting. It's big enough for you to think about it and prepare for it. And I hope it goes well for you. I'm excited to hear more about it.
big. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
Enjoy
guys.
that too.
It was amazing. All right. See you next week.